Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. In today's ongoing coverage of the Civil War taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, Air Force aircraft from the Abiy loyalist formations have launched renewed airstrikes on the capital of the Tigray region, Mekelle. So as the federal forces, the Abiy loyalists, become more and more desperate, especially with the situation along the southeastern front in the vicinity of Dessie and in the environments west and east of Dessie. The federal forces continue to become more desperate in going after targets of opportunity located inside of the city of Mekelle. So as we know, the Tigray region is going through a process, or has going through a rather significant process of mobilization. Industry that is based throughout the Tigray region, especially within the city of Mekelle, are being repurposed for war. A wide range of manufacturing has been committed in terms of what manufacturing and what limited heavy industry exists inside of Mekelle is naturally being repurposed to the defense industry. And obviously the Ethiopian Air Force, the Abiy loyalist formations have gotten word that there are targets inside of Mekelle that they have decided to target, and that is what is going on. We continue to hear about ongoing airstrikes. This would be the second day of airstrikes again. The targets appear to be repurposed industry that is being used and utilized for the war effort by the Tigray region. At the same time, the Ethiopian Air Force, the federal forces, the Abiy loyalists, all in one of the same, uh, are utilizing, for the most part, dumb bombs, free flight rockets, which have a tendency to miss their target and impact in civilian areas. And just yesterday, three children were reported killed from these airstrikes that occurred within the confines of Mekelle and areas around Mekelle. That is the information we have at this time. There could be further casualties and further airstrikes, and we suspect there indeed will be further airstrikes within the Tigray region as this desperation continues. But in terms of the fighting, especially within the environments of Dessie, north of Dessie, we understand that a renewed push by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, mainly coming out of Wagtena, heading in a south easterly direction, pushing southeast of Welgeltena. We continue to see operations within the vicinity of Wachale and south of Wachale, and then obviously continued operations to the northeast. This continues to be a very fluid battle that is taking place near Dessie. Again, this counteroffensive was launched after the unsuccessful offensive launched by the Abiy loyalist formations, the federal forces. The much telegraphed planned offensive by the Ethiopian military lasted about 7 days before that operation started to crumble and fall apart, and the federal formations then had to go on the defensive as the Tigrayan Defense Forces maneuvered and then started to counterattack in areas within the vicinity of Dessie, and then northeast of Dessie and east of Weldia, around the town of Shifra. But fighting continues, fairly intense fighting continues, as we continue to see the mass mobilizations of civilians being pushed forward into the conflict zone. Many of these Amhara militias that are being raised and deployed to head north are not armed. In fact, we are seeing in some cases 1 in 10, 1 in 5 personnel actually have a firearm, with many of them utilizing clubs, spears, machetes, axes, and gardening tools turned into weapons of war. So a very difficult situation if you are in fact being pressed into service and you do not have a firearm, and you are moving forward to engage a force that is well equipped with firearms as well. But we continue to monitor the situation, and we'll report on what is occurring as we continue to get information. But again, very fluid situation. The TDF continues operations within the vicinity of Dessie, very close to Dessie, and continue to press their momentum from this counterattack towards the Dessie-Kombolcha gap, and possibly with the intent of eventually either seizing both or one of these cities. And I talked about this before. If one of these cities falls, that is going to be just a complete devastating loss for the Abiy loyalists and the federal forces. It's something to which they may not be able to recover from. If the Tigrayan Defense Forces, on the other hand, are not able to seize control of Dessie and Kombolcha, that would not be of the greatest magnitude, as the original goal of stopping the federal offensive was achieved, and now an after the fact counteroffensive is being launched. But we'll see how this pans out. Again, very intense fighting. Lots of casualties have been reported by the federal forces, an immense amount of casualties for both the federal forces and the Amhara regional paramilitaries. The fighting is going on as well west of Gashina. We continue to hear about operations that are taking place along the B-22 highway west of Gashina. Gashina is still under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. If one area could be defined as somewhat of a success for the Abiy loyalists and the federal forces, it was the push along the B-22 highway, and they're now very close to Gashina. There is the possibility that they are in control of Arbit. Again, it's a very fluid situation. But in terms of the great offensive that was launched by the federal forces, this is one area where they have been able to move forward a bit without actually losing ground. And again, this is in the confine west of Gashina. No ground has been made in the federal offensive within the vicinity of Dessie west and east of Dessie. From the reports that we are receiving. The Tigrayan Defense Forces continue to watch the movements of the despotic regime in Eritrea. There obviously has been continued force buildups. There has always been a fairly sizable contingent of Eritrean forces located along the borders of the Tigray-Eritrean border, and then obviously in some areas the Eritrean army have created a buffer zone just on the other side of the known Eritrean Tigray border. And then western Tigray as well, we continue to see sporadic fighting, mainly in the northeastern, kind of western Tigray region, within the vicinity of Berkuta, this area right here, and in areas just west of the Tikizi River. It would indicate that elements of the Tigrayan Defense Forces are indeed crossing the Tikizi River at times to engage forces of the Amhara regional militias and the Eritrean army located in western Tigray. At some point, we could see a fairly sizable and significant general offensive crossing the Tikizi River with the intent of possibly retaking the entirety of western Tigray. But again, that would probably come after the win, hold, win strategy. Again, the first area of operations where the TDF are looking for an ultimate victory is in the Amhara region. Once that victory has been established, and if that victory can be established, then obviously future operations, future facing operations that would include Western Tigray and even Eritrea proper could be in the works at some point. But again, we will continue to monitor the situation. There continues to be airstrikes by the federal forces. There continues to be heavy fighting within the vicinity of Dessie. Very fluid situation. And as we get more information, we will absolutely report that information. For now, have a great day, and we will talk again.